Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hello everyone and welcome to the show. So I'm Trevor Stockwell and we have another great episode with today's guest. She's been helping business owners, coaches and consultants in particular, build sustainability, impact and freedom. Now, it doesn't matter if you're not specifically a coach or a consultant, because what she's going to be sharing with us is key principles and practical steps that we can all implement and benefit from. She's the co-founder of the Thought Leadership Academy. She's a keynote speaker and has delivered 2 TEDx talks. She's a best-selling author and she's the host of the Thought Leadership podcast. So welcome, Daria Vodopianova.
Thank you, Travis.
Glad to have you here. Glad to have you here. Glad that I pronounced your name right as well. So that's a good start.
Absolutely. Yes.
Now I know you've lived in several different countries in your journey to get to where you are now. So maybe just to start with, share a little bit of your background and your journey to so far.
Yeah, I lived in many countries, and the question I get, the normal question people ask you, where you're from, for me it's very, very complicated to answer because I'm born in Russia, my mother's Ukrainian, and I grew up in Sweden with a Greek stepfather from early age. And when I was 21, I went down to France, south of France, to study an exchange semester, an Erasmus student. And my first day, I met my partner, who is French-Argentinian. We've been together for 11 years now, and I stayed in the south. So that's kind of the big picture. But I also lived in Australia. I also lived in Portugal. Currently, I'm in Portugal. A bit in Spain. Kind of been very location independent because I'm a speaker. My partner, he's done 4 TEDx, so he's also very much traveling when was possible. So we had a very moving lifestyle. So all the things we'd have in online business came in quite early for us to be able to travel and speak and train and have a business at the same time. Yeah.
That sounds good. So you could definitely be described as a global citizen. I think that's
absolutely. I usually say I'm European because it kind of sums up most of the countries, but yeah, I do feel that I'm very connected to, of course, after being so connected to France at some point, almost like 11 years with the French, and lived in France 5-6 years. I forgot about that, but yes, I did live there 6 years. You become a bit everything, a bit Russian, a bit Swedish, a bit Greek, a bit French. I feel a bit connected to all those countries.
That's good. Yeah, it's a good way to kind of broaden your perspective and how you see business, how you see kind of leadership.
Absolutely. Become yes, it's an amazing tool to be flexible and adapt fast. I have seen that for me in business. I've been in business for almost 10 years now. It has been really easy for me to come to a new place or a new situation and just get up on my feet and see what has to happen. It's definitely comes from that moment of probably traveling around or moving countries and starting over.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, you've learned to adapt in every scenario you've been in, so that's really good. Yeah. So one of the key things that I want to kind of dig into really is, so your Thought Leadership Academy, you have a 3-stage kind of academy experience, don't you?
Yes.
Enlighten us on what that means.
Yes. So can I give a bit of a background story why how we came into this? Yeah. My partner speaks 12 languages. I speak 5, and we had the language school for almost 4 or 5 years in south of France. And at some point, we had this moment that we realized we had the thought leadership ourselves, that we could not get to the world. He got on the TEDx and we got so much people coming to us, but we didn't know how to frame our method. We didn't know how to offer, how to package it, how to sell it, how to deliver it, how to get the support team and not become the micromanager of our trainers. The old system in terms of how to actually have a business with getting a big, office and getting people to train for you and kind of overseeing all of that was a nightmare for me. I could not see myself doing that. I didn't come into that for that reason. I wanted to train, I wanted to teach, I wanted to coach, I wanted to be with people and speak. That was my passion, and that's my gift, my best, way of supporting people, and realizing that I could not find anywhere where I could get a clear understanding, like a business school for like, how do I put this all together? How do I take my framework or method or what I have in my mind, and I know I have like lots of experience, my partner had lots of experience, and I spent almost 2 years trying to find that. And when I didn't find it, I just created it, and that was the beginning of that. So the reason why we did it was a solution for ourselves in the beginning. And I realized with the coaching industry being one of the fastest growing industry in the world at the moment, there's so many people who don't know how to actually run a business which allows them to grow their impact, not only the coaching part, of course, with the profit and all that, but also actually, how do I structure my thoughts? How do I, put this all together? How do I deliver that in a way where I'm still sustainable? So the 3 stages is basically, how do you go from wherever you are in terms of coaching, consulting, expert, or if you're a speaker, author, and how do you sustainably build this business so you actually can keep going for long? It's not just for a couple of years. You should not be burning out just because you want to help more people. And so the 3 stages is, first and foremost, is of course make it is sustainable. So profit is stage 1. How do you take what you have right now and you make it professionally, like you really commit to it, like I'm going to create the business structure for this, I will package it, I will learn how to do the sales and marketing, I'll see what I have to do in order to make it sustainable. That's the first part. The second part is time, because if you can get your time back as the visionary of your company, it's very important that you don't only work with clients or selling or marketing or with the team. You have to step away so you can think better, so you can master your skills. You have to keep learning, keep improving. So the second part is time. It's really about getting your time back. So we work a lot on how can you structure your week as a visionary of your company, not just the coach or consultant, but how do you step into the visionary so you start to act as the visionary. And the third part is the impact, the influence. So it's really about, okay, now that you have that time, now that you have the business running, how do you take that ideas of yours and you spread it to the world? You get on stage, you get to TEDx, you go and maybe write a book. Maybe that's not your style. You maybe have your own podcast, your show. How will you get your message out to the world, not only to your clients, but actually to the bigger community? So those are the 3 stages that we have in our academy.
Wow, that's very comprehensive. That's very good. I like everything that I heard you say there. It makes a lot of sense to me. I particularly like the bit where you said, I kind of looked for something, was trying to figure it out, so I created my own. Yes. I think that's key, isn't it? Because what works for some people won't necessarily work for others. The other side of that is we don't have to necessarily create everything our own. Like, you've managed to do it in a way that you've got proven success that businesses can kind of take on board, go through your academy and come out the other side healthy and prosperous. So it's really good. So there is the kind of the balance between, do I need to do it myself, or can I just learn from somebody else that has gone through the effort, the struggle? I'm sure there was a few struggles in the process.
Absolutely.
And then just kind of almost learn from somebody that's done it and avoid the mistakes that you would actually make yourself if you try and do it yourself. So firstly, thank you for creating something that will help business owners. I know that one of the struggles can definitely be, particularly in the early stages, is you get sucked into everything that needs to happen, and the visionary kind of aspect in particular suffers because you just can't devote enough time to think about it. Your mental energy is not focused on where we're going a little bit further on after we've kind of hit the next quarter or whatever it is that we're focusing on at the moment. So to have a stage process like that, I think, is key. That's really good. Yeah, I really like that.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit more with regards to, I suppose, first of all, just for a bit of clarity, what would you say? You run the Thought Leadership Academy. So how would you define a thought leader? Because it does kind of get bandied around by some people that I think don't know what it means. But
absolutely. So I want to take away, like, one of the mission for that word for me is to bring it back to people who have an experience, stepping into their zone of genius, stepping into their understanding that I've gone through something in my life, I've gone through this experience, or I have, I've overcome some stumbling blocks in my business or my life, in my health. There is something that I've done that people can access and they can have a better life. And for me, I want to take away that idea that thought leadership has to be corporate, you have to be a leader in this big company. It can be you alone. For the ones listening or watching this, you can be alone as a coach, as a consultant, or someone who just have gone through this moment of, I went through this, I came out on the other side happier, better. I feel like, wow, why did I have to suffer when there's another way? And for me, that came with languages, but I know there can be the relationship. Maybe it can be, you're being really trying to take care of your health, or there's so many reasons why we are stuck in our life or feeling not 100%. And my core mission with thought leadership is really saying that if you have a knowledge that has to get out there, let's help you to get it out there, because one, you're gonna feel much more in your purpose. If you are really, you've gone through something, and or if you gain that experience and you feel 100% that your life is better, of course you would like to improve other people's lives. So if we can help you to put away any type of work that you're doing or anything that you're doing, and you can just really focus on structuring that knowledge, taking that framework, that step by step, and help other people, that's my core mission. And I believe that that's the innovation we need right now more than ever, because that's something that is in our mind, and no robot or automation, AI can take that away from you. That's something that is going to be even more important, because we want to have that human connection, someone helping us. And that's why coaching and consulting is such a big industry. So to kind of come back to your question, thought leadership for me is really, it's an experience that you have. It's something that you learn. It's your secret recipe. That's unique way of solving problems. And it can be in the company. If you can be outside the company, it can be alone, it can be in a group. It doesn't really matter, because that's you. There's like your unique DNA of a secret recipe that this world has to get access to, because if you do, you will see that you will impact millions of lives if you want. And that's so thrilling, and it's so exciting, and it's also so purposeful.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah. It's like turning the struggles and the things that we learn that could seem quite negative, it's kind of gleaning the gold from it, isn't it? That I think with every experience, there is somehow a way of benefiting other people through it. You can come alongside people. You might be a step ahead of them, so you can communicate and help them on a path that gets them out of whatever it is they're suffering from, or just kind of puzzled with, really.
Yeah. Or it can be also the other side. It can be that they are, you're really good at something. I'm thinking about one of our earlier members who was leading a team of 200 people, and he said in 5 years no one quit. And I said, that's amazing. You know how many companies could benefit from your knowledge of being able to have such a happy team with 200 people. Keeping your employees, keeping your talents today is very hard. If you can understand what you're doing differently than anybody else, and you can bring that to the world, wow, that's amazing. So it can also be that, it doesn't have to be pain. It can also be that you create immense results or success around you.
Yeah. And I know, particularly keeping teams together in a way that they're productive for a long period of time. Yeah, that stands the test of time, that there's good leadership involved in that. As humans, we have a default setting, if you like, where if we're not kind of nurtured and led in the right way, we kind of ruin things. So a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time. So to know you've got a good functioning team. It
can be anything, but the thing is, most of the time we don't really know our own secret recipe, because it's so natural to us that we don't even realize that, wow, a lot of people can benefit from it, because it just feels like, well, I've overcome it, so I'm good now, or I learned this new skill, so I acquired a new skill. But it's about really saying that, okay, what is it that you're doing that is so special that people can benefit from?
Yeah, I like that. So how could people discover that?
So discover or apply?
I would say discover to start with. What I'm thinking is, I'm sure there's some people thinking, actually, no, you mentioned that about the teams or whatever. It's like, yeah, maybe I am quite good at that. So how could people then kind of take that, almost the seed that's gone and started to blossom? How can they then develop that further?
Oh, I think there are two things that you can do that are quite simple. One is to start asking people around you what you're good at. It can be your clients, it can be your team, it can be your manager if you're working in the company, it can be your family, it can be your kids, and just ask like, what is it that I do that you find extraordinary? And then they will tell you, and you will say, wow, I didn't even think about it. And you'll say, no, that's something special. And then if you go deeper, usually what other people are seeing in you that they are admiring in you, that's the first entrance point. For me, for instance, it took me some time to realize that I'm a complete integrator. If you're familiar with the Rocket Fuel, the book, an amazing book about the visionary and one of our two co-founders, the visionary and the integrator. My partner is a visionary. I'm an integrator. I see things in structure. I have a step-by-step process. My mind functions like that. And my clients told me that, wow, I want more of that. That's what's missing from me. I just see all these big things, but you just get it all so clear, and I start to see the roadmap. So I realized that that's my superpower. That's what I have to work more on. That's what I have to develop. And today, I spend more and more time in that space. But it took me some time to kind of discover it. The second thing that you can do is to actually create think time. And I think it's really great to just start to create that space in your agenda to think. Because if you're filling your agenda up with everything, and you're having your schedule, you have your clients, you have your team, you have your family, you're doing this and that, or you have to go shopping, or you're doing, you're trying to put in an activity, yoga or something, and then you just constantly in that speed, you don't have the time to think. And that's one of the most important things that you have to develop, to have this space in your agenda. And usually I tell our clients to have 30% space in their agenda just to develop their thought process, because you have to conceptualize it. You have to start seeing it, maybe drawing it, maybe journaling it, maybe you read about the subject, you go deeper and you see, what do I agree about, what's different, and you go deeper and you start to master your skills. So I think those are the two ways that anyone can start with, accessible for anyone, just to kind of block that time in your agenda to discover that, that process of thinking. Really, how do I think better? How do I usually, if I put that into words, maybe a podcast is what you do, maybe it's more journaling, maybe it's, writing something. I know for me, creating a podcast episode is a way to conceptualize my thoughts. Every week I do 2 episodes, and every week I just sit down and think, how can I put this into 30 minutes of super clear content? And that can be anything, So that would be the 2 things to start with.
Okay, yeah, that's really good. As you're saying it, I'm thinking if we can't think through and visualize the future, we're never going to make it happen, aren't we? It's just, we have to be able to conceive it to start with. So and getting too busy with stuff just kind of hinders the whole thing, doesn't it? So, this is really good. So what would be some practical things or ways that you could kind of say that a thought leader acts differently to just somebody that has a leadership job title?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I mentioned was the time that they spend actually thinking, really creating a time in your schedule where that think time is one of the most important time in your schedule. Having 30% of your schedule, just blocking out that time of writing or producing content or just sitting and learning more, or wherever you need to basically express yourself. That will be the first thing to do, that I see that our members are doing differently. Another thing that is different is that you really start to think differently. You're able to stand out from the group, because we are humans we are all tribe people. We tend to stick together and think, if I stand out and I think differently, then I'll die, basically, because we still think we are in a cave. So the thing is today that if you think differently, you're actually the visionary, and we need more of that. You start to innovate. So it's starting to get comfortable with being a bit uncomfortable, of thinking about different, and really ask yourself the question that in your topic that you feel that you want to go deeper into, do I have something to say that is different in this conversation? Is there something that I feel that if I just think about it logically, it doesn't make sense for me? Or is there something that, and how can I conceptualize that? So it's just that I feel, but it just, this is my argument or my way of seeing it, that I can formulate that into something. So it's really important to start getting comfortable with that, really getting outside. Can I give an example for So for instance, for me personally, I truly believe that when you develop a thought leadership business, it's better to start from the high programs, so the highest program, your VIP coaching, and going down to group coaching and maybe online courses. In the industry, online courses is usually seen as the first thing to do after you have, you go away from one-on-one. And that for me is something I'm completely opposite about, because I truly believe that you first have to get your profit up and running with less hours. You don't have to learn all the tech, all the marketing, all the things to create an online course. And so there is something that for sure in our industry I'm a bit different about. And it's not just because I want to be different, it's just because I truly believe that if you start with having very high level, high impact programs, you're going to develop your knowledge better, and you will also have more profit. And then with time you can outsource and create an online course. So that's just an idea of how you can start thinking about your industry. Like, okay, do I really think this way? Do I think that this is the best way to create, wherever you're doing in your business? Is this the best way to exercise? Is the best way to think about nutrition or fasting or relationships or dating or, business, whatever that is that you are so good at. And then start to reflect. Where am I different? Stand out, and start to write it down. In your think time, that's a good moment for you to write those things down. And the third thing that I will say is start to practice the art of communication. If you're not comfortable with public speaking, this is one of the core skills to develop. And public speaking is something scary for many. And I mean, when I started public speaking, my partner is a TEDx coach, was TEDx coach before we started this company. I was basically holding the table in front of 50 people, and I could not get a word out. I was just so scared. And it took training, and lots of hours speaking on podcast, on stage, for me to start to feel like, okay, I'm starting to find my voice. And of course, it's always a practice, but it's so important to understand that the people who are good at speaking, they are not natural. They have been trained. The best speakers, they are training and improving their skills. And that is a core skill to have if you're going to be a thought leader, because you have to speak up. You have to find your voice. And today, yes, you can write a book, but we have podcasts, we have YouTube channels, we have live shows. There's so many reasons why having a good communication should be one of your core priorities, and if you want to develop this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Got me thinking now, and lots of different strands we could go on that. Maybe just from the public speaking side of it, do you have like a bit of a routine, or just before you go out on stage and you start, you've done your preparation, do you have like some people do power poses, some people think certain things, and do you have a particular habit or routine that you go that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Absolutely. So if it is, I'm now thinking, it can be the virtual stage or before we were going more on tours, it was good to have 3 or 4 keynotes per year. So we developed 3 or 4 keynotes. Those was the core ideas, and I would speak about those ideas, over and over again. I could speak about them for 5 minutes or for 5 hours. It would not make any difference. The core concept was there. That's really important to remember, that if you want to be able to speak often, you cannot always think, how can I develop this? So one TEDx coach, actually a TEDx founder, organizer, told me that his speakers were trained for 1 minute on stage. They were trained 1 hour.
Yeah.
And this is how much, if you want to really master the skills, if you're invited to speak at, for 20 minutes, it's going to require about 20 hours of preparation. Just to give you really, like, if you're going for excellence. So don't feel like, oh, it's taking so much time. You're going to get better. But in the beginning, when you're developing your core ideas, your stories, your concepts, it's probably going to take you about 30 hours per keynote to develop them, and then you will be very fluid and you can improvise and you can go any direction. But you need that that time to sit down and develop the structure of your talk and improvise with that. You should not learn it by heart, but you should learn it almost like when you're getting to 110%, like you feel like I cannot do this rehearsing anymore. That's when you're starting to get to the moment where you're getting excellent. A lot of people stop when they have rehearsed and they kind of know it by heart, but no, you should I should be able to wake you up in the night and just like, okay, now you're up, and you just go, because it's in your body, it's in your cells. That's how deep you should have it, if you want to master it. And the second thing, so that would be first thing I would do. I would really focus on 3 or 4 core ideas per year, and then I will work with them and I'll go deeper and I will improve. Okay, that story didn't really work. How can I improve it next time? And I'm just going to go back and just rework it between each speaking engagement. And then the second thing, before speaking, you have to be present. One of the things, the core of amazing dynamic speakers is their presence, is their state. They can talk about anything, but if they are not present with you, then it feels like, well, I could just read this, right? I don't have to be here. Yeah. So I do meditation before. And 1 hour before any speaking engagement, I will stop everything. I'll take it with my phone. I will do a meditation. I do have like a 25-30 minutes meditation. I usually do. I do breath work, kind of simple breath work exercises to kind of slow myself down, my body. And when I go up, I really start to visualize them and I start to see them. If I'm in the place where I can actually see the stage, and if I'm not the first speaker, I'll go into the room and I'll sit down and I'm just going to feel the room. I just want to feel, how does it feel to be in that room? And you have to remember that you're not the only person to come to see. So you have to think, where do they come in from the day? What happened before they came to this moment? And like just before here, you asked me how my day was and where I came from. It's a great question, because you realize that, of course, there are things before that happens and the things that happens after. And if you can just realize that, okay, if you're the last speaker of an event, it's late, you have to be more physical. Maybe you have to make more jokes. Maybe you have to get them up and laugh. But what can you create in their body so they don't feel so tired and just sitting and listening? They've been sitting and listening the whole day. You have to be so aware of the whole concept. And that's what I love about it, because it's an art form. It's beautiful.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's like creating the experience, isn't it, in a way?
Yes.
People respond and can remember, really. I know from my experience, if I listen to somebody kind of at a conference or something, I engage a lot more, if I relate to the person a bit, because they're not just chucking loads of facts at me, but there's a personal story about how they got to where they were, or an example or something like that.
Absolutely.
It's the human element, isn't it? It's not losing the human connection and interaction amongst trying to get your message across. I think the balance of that, getting that right is key for a good experience, for people to walk away and think, I will listen to some more of her stuff.
Yes.
That's good. So just thinking kind of, as we've, over this last year, had to move more remotely in some ways. Some people may have been doing it a lot more before then. What would be a different dynamic between speaking to an audience kind of within a venue and kind of an interaction via video chat or conference that way?
Well, of course, we don't have that moment of in between, when you're speaking, you're not in the conference just to listen to the speakers. Most of the time you're there to meet new people, to network, to have a time out of your natural environment, to kind of change and think differently. And now today, if you're going to create an event online, what's really important to remember is that you have to recreate not only the conference part, but also that experience of how can I create that moment when people come together for the coffee break? How can I get them to move? And how can I make them speak with each other and not only with me? Tony Robbins did his first virtual event after 40 years, and we attended it live in July, at 4 days of 10 to 14 hours and jumping around, and it was US time, so we went to bed at 5 a.m. It was very fun. Wow. But he went all in on that experience. It was really like, you have to stop everything you're doing, fill up your fridge with fruits and drinks, and close your windows, and then let's just commit those 4 days together of deep work of transformation. So I think that, of course, with Zoom, if you're just doing something with your clients or with your team, you will not maybe recreate what Tony Robbins did, but you can take elements of that and always check in. When I do anything on Zoom, I always check in where they come from. We just have a laugh before we start. We take time to kind of round up so they feel that it's completed. We do some dancing sometimes. We do some moving, breakout rooms. One of the best things with Zoom is breakout rooms, really working with that, making the more active they are, the more they will feel that they got something out of it.
Yeah.
And that's the question, really. How can you create that interaction, even if you have a bigger group, in the chat? Get them engaged all the time, so they don't just sit and listen.
Yeah, that's really good. Because, we like that interaction, don't we? We are, craving that in some ways, like a conversation with somebody, or you listen to someone speak. It's a two-way thing, isn't it? When it's done properly, it should be a two-way thing. That way, both sides benefit. That's really key. Thank you for sharing all that, because you know as well as I do, but like businesses, whether they're at the point where keynote speaking is part of their strategy for getting promotion and marketing themselves and becoming an expert, or whether it is just I now have to go online, I have to connect with people more there. I think everything that you've shared there's things that we can take away. We can be creative. We can try and think, how can we create kind of more of a virtual experience than just, is everybody connected? Is everybody on mute? And all the rest of it kind of thing. There's lots of good things that you've brought to light there. So thank you for that.
Pleasure.
We are almost coming to the end of our time together. So before we do, how can people kind of reach out, touch base with you? What's the best way to connect with you?
The best is to type dariav.com, and they will find more information about me. I just made it very simple because I have a very long surname. Or if they type my name, Daria Vodopianova, they can also reach out to me on LinkedIn and share that they watched this or listen to this episode, what they took away from it, and we can keep the conversation going. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, as always, for everybody that's listening, wherever you clicked on to listen to this, there'll be a link to Daria's website below, and different social media posts as well. Do you have kind of more of a success story with a certain social media platform, depending on what you do, or is your experience sort of, because we talk to different people, and for some people they're kind of everywhere, and for others they're very specific of, tried that, didn't work, so this is where I am. Do you have
I was very strong on LinkedIn. I used to teach a lot of LinkedIn strategy, lead generation for, LinkedIn was big a couple of 2-3 years ago. And when the videos came out, then now more Facebook. But actually the biggest change for me personally has been to have my own show. I cannot insist on having a consistent show once or twice per week. I started with one time per week, and I went live on Facebook, and then my team repurposed it. There are also tools like repurpose.io, which is super simple, very, very inexpensive, where you can take your video and then you can just restructure that and make it super nice with the banners and all that. So you don't need a team for that. But basically, what I realized was I need to have the consistency and having my own show, and every week, no matter what, it can be on the last day of the week, but I'm going to show up and I'm going to share something, or I'm going to have a guest on. That is really important, because what happened was that from those 30 minutes or 45 minutes, maybe it took me 2 hours to create a show, all in all, I can repurpose that and restructure that to all my social media platforms plus my email list. So those, 2 hours per week, or now 4 hours with the 2 podcast episodes, take care of all my social media platforms. I don't post anything anymore. My team does it, but even without the team, you have content for years, and you can reuse it, and you can, take the same show notes, you can make a post out of it. That has been the biggest difference, because having that consistency and showing up for my audience, and they know that they can find it, on episodes on YouTube, or it's the same kind of content, but just like the way that they want to consume it, that has been the biggest game changer for me.
That's really good. Yeah, it's like capturing. It's a smart move. If people that are listening aren't doing that, definitely start doing that. It's a smart move that you capture kind of your presence of where you are and what you're thinking about then, and then there's different avenues to get it out to different people. Yes, it's huge. It's like you were saying about practicing, if you like, rehearsing for the keynotes 3 or 4 a year. Once you've got that message, it might take you, say, 20 hours to get an hour's worth of good kind of speaking material, but then you might use it over the next X amount of years, hundreds of times. So it's a good, isn't it? I think if people shift their thinking to, actually, this is a good investment, rather than, can't believe how long this is taking to get to this point.
And you're going to get faster,
Yeah.
Keynotes, yes. Keynotes are going to be maybe 3 or 4 per year. You will take more time to create it, but then you'll take core ideas from those keynotes and make episodes. And if you like going live, I love going live on Facebook twice a week. That just works for me. And then my team just we put that into podcasts and YouTube, all the stuff. But some people maybe just want to go on YouTube, or maybe they just want to do a podcast episode. It doesn't matter. Just get out and start speaking, because you will get better. If I listen to my first episode, I don't want to listen to my first episode because, it's very random, trying to find, how do I do this thing with podcasting? And then you just find your way, and you just I have this idea, and you just go live in 1 hour, and you will get better, but you need that consistency of showing up every week.
Definitely. Yes, 100% agree with you. Yeah, consistency compounds. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you for everything you've shared with us today. There's so much more that we could chat about. Maybe you should come back another time. We'll try and get diaries together so that you're able to share more. I know there's lots more that you talk about, and you can help anybody that's in business, and generally people that aren't in business. A lot of what you've said, there's principles that work in everyday life as well. So thank you. Really do appreciate your time with us.
It's been a pleasure.
Now, just for everybody that's listening as well, you do definitely need to put into practice at least 1 or 2 of those things straight away. Otherwise, what was the point of listening? So we do encourage you. You're able to do it. It's all practical stuff you can put in place. And just before we wrap up, I wanted to remind you all about Yeukai's Lifestyle Mastermind group as well. So we've spoken, Daria was mentioning about having time to think about things, just to come aside from the everyday stuff of business, the pressures and all of that. A mastermind is a good way of doing it. It's not the only way, but it is a good way of doing it, particularly if you surround yourself with other experts that give you a different perspective. We do need to develop our thought leadership, so we need to listen to different sources, different experts. So there is a registration link below where you're listening to this. If it's not there, then it's no longer available, but I believe at the moment there are still spaces for the Lifestyle Mastermind group. It's going to cover the main 4 areas of life: income strategies, health practices, how to get ultimate happiness and a lifestyle that works for you, and healthy relationships. And at the moment, there's a big discount if you use the discount code that's available with the link. So that's kind of the commercial over with, but definitely take action. There's lots of different things that make life easier if we'll just do them. If we hear them and we don't follow through, it doesn't do us any good. But once we start putting them into practice, as Daria said, don't wait till you're an expert, just put things in practice straight away, and you're going to get better at it as you go. So without further ado, that's everything from us for now. I'll sign off, and we will catch you all on the next episode. Thanks very much. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.